everyone, and a very warm welcome to another episode In Conversation with Naomi. Today with me, I have another very special guest, also a friend of mine called Francisco Da Sila. We met a few years ago when we both attended the same business school, Halt International Business School. That was the start of our journey. But since then, we have become such great friends, potentially even business partners in the future. I'm speaking that into being. But Cisco really has got such a passion for making a difference, such a passion for social entrepreneurship, and to reach others that may not necessarily have information. Cisco, welcome to In Conversation with Naomi. Would you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Well, firstly, thank you very much, Naomi, for having me here today. And it's actually quite ironic how me and Naomi had met. It started with a little LinkedIn message saying, hey, we've both attended Halt International Business School.
It works, right?
It really does. And it's crazy how small the world actually is once you start reaching out to people.
Yeah.
And I remember I was just back from Boston in South Africa, and I sent Naomi a message, and I'd say, let's go meet for lunch.
Yes.
And we came through to Sanson at Trump's Grill. And from there, I feel like it started as a business meeting and really just led to a friendship.
Yes.
And then once you made the turn past in Boston again, when you were busy with your advanced management program, things just took off. So I'm excited to see how much you've grown and excited to be here today. And a little bit about myself. I'm Francisco Da Sila, born and raised in Johannesburg, South Africa. Mm-hmm. And South Africa will forever be my home. I love the people here. I love our country. I love our nation. But for the past 2 years, Boston has been my home. And when I moved to Boston, I moved to go do my master's in international business, but with the true intention of starting a company abroad. And the easiest way to get overseas was by going through a qualification. Mm-hmm. So once I arrived overseas, I met with an amazing business partner today, Francesco Ficcarelli, and we started discussing different business ideas. We were going to enter into a business, the two of us alone, but then we came across a competition called the Halt Prize Foundation.
Oh, I love the Halt Prize. And I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into the Halt Prize. So I think Halt was the foundation of where we met. And I will tell our audience a little bit about Halt a little later on. But I want to go back to Cisco as a little boy, Cisco growing up. Did you imagine that you would go abroad, wanting to start a business, wanting to be in social entrepreneurship? Tell me a little bit about your journey growing up and where does Cisco come from?
Well, if you ask 6-7-year-old Cisco, he was a naughty shit. So
we love naughty shits,
probably would have never seen myself getting to where I am today.
Yeah.
But ironically enough, going abroad was always in my vision, always in my plans. From a little kid, 12 years old, I'd walk up to my parents and I'd say, I'm going to move to America. I'm going to move overseas. And
did they believe you?
No, they'd look at me. They're like, you're just 12 years old. What you talking about? Like, how can you be saying these things at such a young age? But it's just a calling I've had from the very beginning of my life. There's something told me I needed to spend a portion of my life overseas. Yeah. And I never truly knew why until I got older. So in 2016, I had the opportunity to go on an academics and hockey achievers tour to the States.
So you play hockey?
Yeah, field hockey. I love it. It was my number one sport.
Yes.
So went through then and we saw different cities. We went to Boston, New York, Washington, Orlando, and I absolutely fell in love. So when I got back home, the first thing I did was apply to different scholarships to go finish off my high school over there. And I got accepted. But when I went to my parents, that was a stage in my life where I was a little bit wild.
Yes.
So my parents were like...
They were like, we are not letting him loose. We are not sending him on his own to America.
Yeah. They said, finish your high school degree over here, and then we can have a look at it again. So I finished high school, and then I applied for university. And I got accepted into university to do my bachelor's overseas again in the United States. And my parents were like, you know what? It's still not the right time. Go to Northwest University, get your qualifications done here. And that's exactly what I did. And after that, I applied for my master's after getting some work experience. And I looked at my parents and I'm like, I've been wanting this.
I'm not taking another no from you guys. How did you deal with your parents saying no to you all the time? Because I know when we're young, we have so many goals and dreams and like we want things now. We don't want to wait. We're also in the era of instant gratification, right? If I want to go to the USA, I don't want to wait. I don't want to save up. How did you deal with that disappointment of your parents just saying no?
I wouldn't necessarily say it was disappointment, and I'm actually sort of grateful that they held me back because I grew a lot as a person that allowed me to reach the points where I am today. But I think it was persistence and consistency. Like after my parents saw that my mind was stuck on moving to the States for a certain duration of time, and I always said 2 to 3 years. And when I'm consecutively telling them that since the age of 12, eventually it reached the point where it was like, okay, he's not playing anymore. This is stuck in his brain and this is what he wants to go down and achieve.
It's not a childhood dream. It's actually a vision that you're having.
Yeah. And I think they eventually ended up accepting that, and super grateful that they've let me go overseas now and let me experience and just grow as a person. You all know, coming from Holt's International Business School, having a growth mindset and open mindset is the two most important aspects that we discuss within the curriculum.
That's the foundation of our program. I am very grateful to your parents, and I want to say thank you very much for saying yes to Cisco a third time, because that's how we cross paths, and that's how we met. We effectively met when you have just gone to Boston. So tell us a little bit about Halt, your time there, and then I think it's through Halt that you got involved in the Halt Prize and where you guys were placed in the program.
Yeah, so Halt International Business School, what a time to be alive and what a place to be, especially when pursuing your postgrad, and I'd even say undergraduate.
Yes.
There's no other place in the world or no other university in the world where I can imagine sitting in a single classroom with 180 students representing over 140 nationalities.
Wow.
It really is the most diverse place you can be. Coming from diversity in South Africa, I think it helps you adapt.
We think South Africa's diverse, right? And then you sit in a Halt class, you go like, wait a minute.
No.
South Africa is not as diverse as we think it is.
And it's actually so difficult to deal with in the beginning because there's so many cultural perspectives that you need to adapt. Like the way the Japanese work to how the Chinese work, how the Germans work, it's all completely different. So I think one of the biggest talents I've learned throughout my experience is how do you control your emotions and how you approach different situations to respect each and every person's culture and be on like a mutual understanding, because gaps in communication or miscommunication, I think, is the biggest problem we have in today's world.
Did you have any? Some interesting snippets on how to work with with the diversity of the teams that you were in.
100%. And not to point out to any specific cultures or countries, but I'd say ones that I definitely had a good experience, but a complicated experience with was the Germans. And I always refer to them like the German train schedule.
Right.
Quick, fast, effective. And
get it done.
Yeah.
And now.
If you don't get it done, even if you have like remaining time to still get something fixed, they will be on your case and hunt you down. They're all about perfection.
There's no lastminute.com.
Yeah, no, there's no last minute. And then when you look at the Indian community or Southeast Asia, it's the complete opposite. Very laid back. They know when they need to get things done, but they save it mostly towards the last minute. And there's nothing wrong with that, because when they need to deliver, they deliver. Yes. And it's exceptional work. Right. But now you have yourself in the middle trying to fight both battles and just bring the team together to a mutual understanding so there's no conflict. But
in South Africa, somehow, as a culture or as a community, we want to bring people together, right? We have that, we mediators. We're like, how do we? I know I found myself in a very similar situation where I'd have a team that's like, I will do it again. And then others said, like, although I'm also a type personality, I want my assignments done, I want my assignments in time, but you like have to just navigate through so much complexity. And I would often find myself also as the mediator. Was that the same experience for you?
Very similar experience. And I think it's because coming from South Africa is diverse when you look into other countries and how they operate nationally. We used to having that open mindset, shall I say, from the very beginning, to listening to different people's perspective, because we have a complex background. We've dealt with racism, adversity, and even though it might not have taken place in my generation specifically, that feeling is still there. So trying to find mutual ground amongst each other to really unite the nations is something I think we have built into
we
us
all
and into our
bear
blood.
that burden on ourselves to ensure that we move forward and that we add to the next generation.
Yeah, we have to, because that's how we move forward. Like, as sad as it is, you still see segregation in our society today. And it's up to us as the youth and the innovators to really try to pull that circle together to create a better economy and better future and more jobs for South Africa. So I think that being built into our blood automatically makes us the mediators, no matter what situation we're involved in.
The consequences of what our country has been through, I think, will stay for many generations to come. And as a white male in South Africa, what I've admired about you is how you want to make a difference, how you are looking to impact and bring value and address some of the gaps that we have as a society. So I know you started businesses from the age of 19. You also have a platform that you use to educate South Africans about financial literacy. So tell me, how did you get to start that? And tell us a little bit more about what your platform does.
Yeah, for sure. And being a white male in South Africa, it can get challenging sometimes, but really I felt like at the end of the day, we're all humans, right? And that's where the basis of a conversation should start. Like, no one wants to see someone suffering on the side of the road. No one wants to see a person living in poverty. And how I led to my philanthropy called Invest with Cisco is I used to work in Secunda, and in Secunda I was a Soti. It's loaded with Afrikaans people. So
did you wear those
boots
mining
and
boots? Do we have pictures?
Oh, we'll be able to find some pictures of the hard hats and sitting on top of diesel storage tanks.
We're definitely going to put one of those pictures up.
We can get that. They're quite embarrassing. I still used to have like a goatee back in the day just to try to fit in with the community.
I would not have spoken to you then. It's like,
no.
Who's this little boy? I'm joking.
It wasn't the best times. But yeah, after having great success in Secunda, like grew the ranks fast, started as a junior project manager, went into project estimation and was eventually running my own projects as a project manager. But I reached the point where I just felt, firstly, I was getting old. I had a lot of white hairs.
You were getting old at the age of 19?
Well, that was 21 at the time. I was 21 before I made the switch.
So old. Oh my gosh.
Old soul. We'll call it an old soul.
Okay, yes, I agree. You've got an old soul.
So I decided I wanted more in my life, and I had figured out that I'd be going to Boston to pursue my master's already. So I decided to step away from the job and contribute towards South Africa, because I felt like before I leave, let me do something for my nation, let me do something for my country. And the biggest issue I've recognized growing up and living in South Africa was firstly the lack of jobs available for the youth and opportunities available to them, as well as the poverty rate and the less privileged we have in South Africa. And after doing a lot of research, I broke it down to a lack of fundamentals in the education system, where students are not taught about financial literacy. They're not taught how to open bank accounts, how to open investment accounts, how to make their first investments, how the financial system as a whole operates and works. And I saw that as a gap and decided to help them and create content that could educate them and at least get them into the banking system so they can try and make a difference for themselves and their lives. And my slogan actually at the time being, it's a little bit rough, but it was "fuck poverty."
Right.
Like, this shouldn't exist. There's a lack of financial literacy. And if we can make that small change within the youth, that can slowly but surely lead to a larger perspective. To a
better life, and to be able to understand how savings is important for us. Even if we save R5 or $1, it ultimately adds up. And you said through that platform, I've read in some of your write-ups, how many people's lives you have impacted.
Yeah, so I remember I was starting towards the end of the year in 2021, and I said the platform that was popping off at the time was TikTok. So I started a TikTok channel along with an Instagram page, and started simply just by talking about investments and what it is and how the banking system works in South Africa. And within 6 months, I grew to 14,000 followers. So I partnered up with Easy Equities. I did an affiliation program where they said they would get 50 Rand for free to all new registrations coming in through my platform.
Amazing.
So now when I look at the statistics, we've onboarded about 4,000 people that have all made their first investments. We also just worked with another cryptocurrency because I started talking about innovation and change. And over there, we also had about 1,500 registrations that made their first investments. So in total, helped close to 6,000 people just get started. But it wasn't really the content creation that was the biggest aspect for me. It was the personal messages I received from people randomly that had seen my contents, that had come from difficult backgrounds, that had children where they needed to put food on the table. And once it became more personal, it wasn't just generalized content. It was more like, how can I help you as an individual?
How do I help that person with the knowledge gap that they have to improve their lives?
Exactly. Because I feel as an individual, like my sole purpose being on this planet and on this earth is to help other people. And whether I can do that for free or whether I have to do it at a charge, that's something I want to chase down endlessly. And I'll die until I make that change, or at least create some form of difference for our country, for our continent, because we're the labor market of the future. We have the best talents. The only issue is we don't know how to retain them within Africa, within South Africa.
It's the brain drain that we end up having. But we come back. You are back.
I'm back.
I'm back.
It's the land of the opportunity. I'm telling you.
I absolutely understand and also see that value in the South African labor market or the South African talent. Even part of my business case was, what does that represent for the rest of the world? Understanding the opportunity for them to be able to either use South Africa as the country in which they can set up a business, providing job opportunities. So I'm in the legal industry, and if I just look at the amount of graduates that comes out of law school, do you know how it breaks my heart that I cannot help all those people that reach out to me to place them in articles? But what are some alternative roles that we could get our graduates in? Set up companies in South Africa that deliver to the offshore market, that delivers to the USA. And I've seen success stories in it. I've seen business cases where it works. So, but it is around setting up that structure with the right financial support and people around you where we can make the difference, right?
Yeah, 100%. I'd say that's probably my goal being now back in South Africa, is if we can bring US-based funding or European-based funding or even just earnings back into the country while employing locally but delivering for first world countries. I know that's a market you've been trying to tackle, and I think there's
100%.
Amazing opportunities that lie there. But I think when looking back at the context of the employment, it really starts within high school already. And then university. After spending 2 years in the States and traveling a lot throughout Europe, you look at the top countries from an economics perspective and how they're growing. You have the United States, you have Netherlands, you have Germany. The reason they're taking off so fast is definitely because firstly they're tech companies, but also the entrepreneurship ecosystem. Students have competitions, they have entrepreneurship centers. They have so many ways they can plug into the ecosystem from a young age that encourages people to be builders rather than workers. And you need both aspects, because I feel like in order to want to start a business, you'll know being an entrepreneur is not for the faint-hearted.
No, not at all.
No, it comes.
Sometimes I ask myself, why did you decide to do this? Life was easy in corporate.
But that's the thing. I feel like that's the easy option out, right? But I do a lot of youth talks as well and sit on a lot of panels. And what I always explain to the younger audience, I'm like, what's the worst thing you have to lose at a younger age? I look at them and I say, are you married? Do you have kids?
Do you have a bond?
Do you have a bond? Do you have a loan? And if the answer is no to most of those questions, then what's stopping you from taking that risk right now? Because you can sacrifice 5 years of your life to try and build something truly great and provide opportunities to the youth and the younger generation. And if it doesn't work, Naomi, what's the worst thing that can happen? You find a normal job, you work your 9 to 5, and you'll still retire at 60 with R1 million or $1 million, depending where you're placed. So that's the difference. And you've also
gained that there's a resilience that you need to build within yourself if you are an entrepreneur. Things doesn't come easy to you. You don't. It's not 8 to 5. And when you have built a business, when you did have a startup, and you decide that this is not the way for me to go, you take that transferable skills to an employer. You understand this company is a business like my business was, and what I need to put in as an employee, because at some point I was an employer.
Like people say, it's from a financial perspective, like with a job, you have the job security. But then I get them to reflect on themselves and I'll be like, yes, you have money, but right now you're sacrificing 9 hours of your day every single day. You maybe have 1 day a weekend off for free. So what's more important to you at this point of time in your life? And I'd say that resilience for me personally came from a young age, having my parents tell me no. When someone tells me no, as disappointing as it might be to most people, to me it's encouraging. Because then I want to get out there. I want to show you I can do this. I'm not just bullshitting. I'm a man of my word. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to get it done. And there's a lot of lessons that have come my way and call me a little bit of a psychopath having that mindset and mentality. Because business has taken me a lot of places I would never, ever go. But it has
led... Has that tenacity ever led you down a path where you regret it and you go like, oh, maybe I should have listened, but I was stubborn in my resolve. Have you had any of those experiences?
I've never really regretted any decision I've made in my life. I'd say regret is a term I never like to use or incorporate with my life. But I have been in situations where people have given me their lessons and I said, let's see if we can do this differently. And I get stuck at the same hurdle.
I've done that.
And that happens. But then again, it's all about taking a step back, viewing the problem that you're facing right now from a different perspective, and then approaching it again. Like how many times do you knock on that door until eventually it opens or falls down? I feel like there's a solution to everything. And we have a French friend, her name is Val, and she always says, problem, solution. And if you can combine the two together and have that mindset of just tackling everything that God throws your way or the world throws your way, you can conquer anything.
That's where growth mindset comes in again, right? What happens when you bring in 120 students from 15 different countries, 30 different nationalities, all wanting to make a difference, attacking or solving some of the sustainable development goals?
Wow, to me personally, complete chaos.
Of course,
because
can imagine.
Coming from a business perspective, you sit in the room in the audience with all these people, and the language barrier, especially like the context we're talking about now was the Holt Prize Regional Summit that took place in Boston, which is basically our semifinals of the Holt Prize competition, where we bring in people from all over the world.
And just tell our audience a little bit about what the Holt Prize is.
So the Holt Prize, if you're a young entrepreneur, is the coolest thing you can ever come across. It's the world's largest social entrepreneurship challenge that takes place in over 150 different countries. And it's basically like a year-long accelerator where it starts at a university with local competitions. And universities that don't have local competitions, they can enter through the application. And then we funnel it down throughout the entire year. It goes from local competition, the winners make it to the regional summits. From the regional summits, they go into our online accelerator. And if they pass the online accelerator, we've now just sent the top 18 teams around the world to go live with each other for 3 weeks in Ashridge, where they're living in this amazing castle. They have experts, Holt Prize staff. They live in a castle. Literally a castle.
Like a real castle.
A real castle in the middle of Ashridge, UK. And I'll definitely make sure to get some pictures and content sent through to you. And now this Friday is the final pitch Friday, where we'll be selecting the top 6 teams that will go to the global finals happening in London.
And tell me, Cisco, what do they get at the end of this? So yes, great, they build their business, they get insights, they go through, it's almost like an accelerator on how you can scale your business. But what are these students really competing for?
Well, the main prize is $1 million in funding for your startup.
Wow, what does that translate in South African? Let me not even calculate 1 million.
Let's do the maths. It's about 18 million rand. If you're a South African startup and you're getting 18 million rand, you know how far that money can take you for your research and development and penetrating the market here locally.
Wow, absolutely. That's probably more money than some established businesses is turning over currently in South Africa.
Yeah, 100%. And to you, the audience, the Holt Prize Foundation has never had a South African team win the competition. So I'm challenging you today to enter the Holt Prize competition and bring it back to our home country. Look at the Springboks.
Come, let's do it, guys.
We had the Springboks, we had Drickus du Plessis. Now let's have a Holt Prize winner too.
Absolutely, I love that. Your team was placed in one of the top finalists. Tell us a little bit about the business that you and your team. I remember you telling me you guys were sitting in a coffee shop brainstorming, because the idea that you started off thinking you're going to enter into the health prize ended up being something so phenomenal, which I've never heard of, and I'd really love to hear a little bit more about it. But tell us, where did that idea start and where did it come from?
So as Naomi just mentioned, we had all met at Holt's International Business School. We were doing programs, and our team is extremely diverse.
Yeah.
When it first initially started, it was me and my business partner, Francisco Da. He comes from a marketing background and me personally an entrepreneurship background. So when we found out about the Holt Prize competition, the topic for that year was sustainable fashion. And today I look all right, but normally that's not my cup of tea. I don't really have a lot going on in the fashion industry.
You come from Secunda, a hard hat, boots on, and you go and start a sustainable fashion startup. Right, you got to tell us a little bit more about this one.
And I must give thanks and privilege to the incredible ladies that are part of our team. We have 3 of them, Julia, Anna, and Rakita, one from Colombia, one from Italy, and one from India. And fortunately enough for us, they had different backgrounds in the manufacturing space and textile manufacturing industry. So we all got together at the coffee shop, and it just started with a conversation. Do we want to be a team? What values can we bring to the company? What skills do we have? And while we were having these discussions, we realized we all brought something unique as an individual, which prevented us from bumping heads or having a lot of arguments around certain decision making, because we had someone who had a specific skill set in each industry that was important.
Diversity.
Yeah, finance, management, law, engineering, and marketing. It was like the perfect team made in heaven. And still today, I don't know how we met. But after being in the coffee shop for numerous hours, we eventually got kicked out
of it
at 6 p.m. and we made our way to a very famous and local bar in Boston, especially for Holt's International Business School, called Lingo, which you'll be very familiar with.
There's stories that happens at Lingo shall not be shared on the podcast.
What happens at Lingo stays at Lingo. It's like Boston's mini Las Vegas, so we'll keep it at that.
But lots of good business plans come from Lingo.
Literally, so how it started is we got there and we ordered a pincher and we started drinking a few beers. And we said, what should we name our business? And eventually came around the conclusion that let's use the first initial of all our names. So we have Julia, Rakita, Anna, Francisco, and Francesco. And that forms GAAF Incorporation's who we are today. And after coming across that and a few more beers deep in our system, our brain started going chaotic around, okay, what really is the problem with the fashion industry and how can we solve this to create a business for sustainable fashion? And we grabbed a napkin like you'll see in Wolf of Wall Street and all the movies. Even though it sounds fake, it's really what happened.
Do you guys still have the napkin?
We still have the napkin. We do still have the napkin, and we started discussing our business idea. And Anna said that one day she went scuba diving in Colombia, and while she was diving, she saw textile waste all over the ocean floor. So we definitely knew we wanted to tackle the issue of discarded fabrics. And Julia said, why don't we make a new material? So what went from there and started.
Did you guys know that there is a solution to turn textile waste into the solution that you have? Or were you saying you're going to go out and find a solution?
We were going to go out and create a solution for it, not find a solution for it. Because there really was nothing on the market at that time. Like there were companies doing something a little bit similar, but it wasn't really repurposing the textile waste itself. So I'm surprised we haven't got arrested till this day, because in the early stages of our business, it looked like we were cooking up meth in Julia's house. We had masks, we had eye goggles, we were chopping textile with scissors, we had chemicals and a big boiling pot of water, and we were just dumping it in there.
Did you guys have anyone in your team that was actually a scientist?
We had a mechanical engineer.
Okay, that
was about as good as it got.
That was about as good as it gets, because like you guys could have blown the entire house up. Just saying.
We could have, and it could have led to that. Touch wood, it didn't, at least. But even then, like, we're struggling and we couldn't find the right formula. Like, the textile wasn't bonding with our binding agents. And eventually, I went to the pot and started playing around with Julia. And we were like, damn, this is the perfect combination. Like, it's working. And Julia looked at me, she's like, what did we use? What were the ratios? And I was like,
did you remember?
Oh, gosh.
Something.
Let me try reenact this back to where we were, and we got it right. We took everything down, and we had small little samples, ugly looking samples, and we made our first clothing hanger from it because we said, if we're collecting the textile waste from the manufacturers, they're the ones causing the problem. Yeah. Let's find a way to redistribute it to them by giving the waste a brand new life.
Yeah.
And we can do that by creating products from textile waste, such as clothing hangers, mannequins, shelves, racks. And that's really how we started.
Talking about hangers, I saw in your pitch how many plastic hangers are actually out in the world. Please share that with me.
So out in the world is a large number, but the amount that is discarded every single year is 85 billion plastic hangers that end up in textile landfills or end up in landfills in general.
And that could build the Eiffel Tower.
Fill the Eiffel Tower completely 12 times, if I remember correctly.
That was the number that I saw.
Yeah.
And that is the amount of just the hangers that get
That's just hangers. And that's one single plastic product that's currently being used from oil-based plastics.
And your textile waste that gets discarded, that ends up in the ocean, that is also an exceptional amount of waste.
And it's 93 million tons every single year that is dumped in different areas apart the world. But the countries that are most affected is the Atacama Desert out in Chile.
Yep.
And Ghana, because they have no import tariffs. So the large producers go there, they dump their waste.
So it ends up on a dumping site?
Yeah, ends up on a dumping site. It has leaching and leaking that takes place into the rivers. The wind blows the textile, ends up, like, you can do some research and look at Ghana. The rivers are green, sometimes blue, and the same in India. And at the Atacama,
and that's the water that people drink. So
Yeah.
what is there health consequences for
there
people?
are health consequences.
Exactly.
100%.
Besides just what it's causing to the environment, it's also impacting the lives and the livelihoods of people. Anyway, let's go back to your solution. So you guys are almost blowing up your house in Boston by trying to find all of your quantities of how you put it together. Carry on.
And so we decided to make a hanger. We got this little silicone mold.
Yes.
We heated up our material and we're trying to squeeze it into the silicone mold with our fingers. And if I get arrested today, I'm safe because I think all my fingerprints are burnt off by this time in my life. And that's where we made our first prototype. The ugliest looking hanger I've ever had in my life, but it's still alive today.
You made a prototype. How many people in their lives can say that we made a prototype? So no fingerprints, but hey, that's okay.
Don't have the number, but I feel like every single person in this world should be able to say that one day, say, I've made a prototype.
I need a prototype. Guys, can you help me make a prototype? I also want to say that I had a prototype.
Yeah, so it was interesting. And then from there, we really just looked at scaling. So we partnered with different companies. We were partnered with MIT. We were partnered with UMass Lowell. They helped us with our research and development. And it was all about, throughout the whole process, taking our idea to reality within 1 year while all being full-time master's students. So a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of fun nights too. We'd get creative. Like when it comes to starting a business, I know, Naomi, you'll know it's very stressful.
Yeah.
So
but it energizes you. You have all of this time and energy because you can see, you have that vision to what you're building towards, right?
And what became my saving grace throughout this time was Espresso Martinez. It gives you the energy, it gives you the kick, and it honestly just helps you
react. Did you get it from the North End? The North End has got the
little
best.
Italy.
Little
what a place to
Italy.
be.
Oh man, now I want to go back to Boston.
Well, we'll have a trip coming up sometime soon where we need to make a turn pass back there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you guys created a prototype. I think you ended up getting pallets. Yeah.
And that was a pivotal moment in exclamations on pivot.
Yeah.
Is once we had our prototype of the hangers and we were talking to a lot of different manufacturers, a lot of textile companies, a lot of big players, even Cotton On, Levi's, we were having very interesting conversations. And we went to go talk to a manufacturing company, plastic manufacturing company called Mars Plastic to produce hangers for us. And they looked at us and they said, yeah, we can make you the hangers. We have the molds, but sell us your material. They're like, our clients have been begging us for some form of sustainable materials that has really good properties. Sell us the material.
Good you had a lawyer on your team, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Protect your IP at all times. Protect your IP, people.
And Naomi's been great in helping me with our IP too, from that perspective, and just giving a helping hand wherever needed. So thank you for that, Naomi.
You're welcome. Yeah.
But yeah, so we spoke to Mars Plastics, and then this was just before we were going into the global finals at the Whole Prize competition. So now we had to make this drastic change within our business model, literally 5-6 days away from pitching on the global stage.
Wow.
So we decided to do it. We had an incredible expert, Miriam, come in on the last day before we had to pitch at the finals. And she walked in, she listened to our pitch, and she's like, you guys have no story, change everything. And we had to decide right there as a team.
You had to pivot your pitch a day before. So wait. How did you guys not have a story? To me, that's an incredible story. You found the material that you could create, plastic, sustainable, or a sustainable alternative for plastic.
Yeah.
But according to the competition or what you guys have to pitch, you don't have a story.
In the startup industry, it goes beyond just an idea. Because the idea can change, but what can't change is the team.
Yes.
So how was the team personally related to the problem that if the world was coming to an end, what would keep them there?
Yes.
And throughout my experience with startups and working with different VCs and obviously assisting different startups, I've really broken it down to the question why.
Yeah.
Why you? Why now? Why the solution? And why the product? Why does the market need it? And if you can answer those 4 questions, you're really onto something great with your idea.
So you guys needed to find that why, those 4 whys. And
it was 5 p.m. at night. She came in, absolutely battered us. She hit us out for a home run in a 6.
Point? How did you feel at that point?
No,
so
we literally...
lady, just leave me alone. I don't want to change anything right now.
Once she left the room, we literally looked at each other and we were like, yeah. And we said, are we changing it? We literally pitching the next day.
And it's easy to be stubborn at that time, right?
Yeah.
To say we've put in months of work. We've pitched to so many people. So many people heard us. Why are we going to listen to that one person and her perspective on it?
Yeah, but we needed to take her advice too, because that was a lot of the feedback we had got throughout the different competitions we participated in. And we felt it was an aspect we were lacking, but she helped us identify our story. She pinpointed our relation to the problem within each of us. And we were like, let's do it. We've been through hundreds of all-nighters and sleepless nights. One more isn't going to hurt us.
It's the final push.
Yeah, so we got together. I still remember I'm like the pitch expert of the team, and then we have the technical people. So when I heard we had to readjust the pitch from scratch, and we were at a castle, I'm like, cheers, guys. I'm running into the bushes. I'm going to go do some meditation or just bond with nature and hopefully get some ideas running. Because right now, I'm blank. I'm fried.
And when you're exhausted, your mind, your creativity is not in top form.
Naomi, if I told you how I ran it, as soon as I took a bench with me in the middle of the bushes, I laid it out, put on my eye mask.
What if you fell asleep, sister?
I did fall asleep.
And what if you fell asleep and woke up the next morning and go it's pitch night, I still have nothing.
I had a timer for an hour, but I knew my brain had to readjust before I could penetrate this. And once I woke up, laser focus, so I was like, bam, all the ideas were pumping. That's actually when I came up with the idea of referring to the Eiffel Tower for the amount of plastic hangers wasted. Yeah.
You see, and that resonated even now to me. I was like, that's interesting.
And we're competing in Paris. Everyone knows what the Eiffel Tower is.
Of course.
And yeah, that's really how it took place. And we're happy with how we compiled everything together, and we're ready for the global finals.
And?
So, best feeling in the world.
You guys will play 6, right?
We placed amongst the top 6.
Amongst the top 6.
Some insiders say we were 3rd, but we'll never truly know. But
we'll take that.
Yeah, I'll definitely make sure to send some contents of that, because there was an audience of roughly 500 to 1,000 people. And you're stressing so much. You know it's now or never. You've rehearsed your pitch. If you make one mistake, it's game over. You have 4 minutes to pitch and 4 minutes for Q&A, and no errors can take place. And when you walked onto that stage, we all just gave each other a big hug. We stood still. And it feels like the whole world leaves your shoulders. Like that adrenaline and that kick you get when you're presenting in such a large audience, I think that's why actors do what they do. Because it feels like nothing can stop you. You're at the top of the world right now. God. And we gave the best pitch where everyone still said we were the pitch of the night. And the audience appeal, like if we can play a clip just of the audience clapping and screaming after our pitch, and seeing how we broke down, what a time to be alive.
Amazing.
Like, I'm not even disappointed that we lost, because that was the best performance, best pitch, and best way we discussed our idea. We had never ever done it like that. Yeah, it's not losing. We still secured $100,000 in funding, which was great.
You secured $100,000 in funding. You went through such a rigorous process of refining your business model, of refining how. So you don't only have a product that you take to market, but you have a story that you take into the market. And this is something that I often share with people, is that sometimes a loss is not a loss.
Yeah.
Sometimes failure is not. Failure is either a redirection, or it is a way for us to improve what we are doing and to come back stronger, to come back better. So tell me where GAAF is right now. Where's that journey taken you from your inverted commas loss, didn't win the $1 million, got funding for it, but where has that journey taken you now?
So GAAF has grown exponentially. Like, after the global finals competition, we spent an entire year heavily focused on research and development, because the process of our R&D back in the day was very sketchy. We had a small little production plant in Colombia of homemade machineries, and our pellets were a bunch of different sizes. But now we're at the point where we have an outsourcing partner based up in Lewiston, Maine, called Compounding Solutions. We just ran our final batch of products with them, and our pellets look perfect. They're ready
no
to
longer
go
all
to
different
market.
shapes and sizes.
Yeah, no, exactly the same, homogeneous. It's as good as it could be. And now we have those pellets being sent to Mars Plastics, that's doing our first batch of products, and will be making hangers for us, and a bunch of other products just to show to future investors, different clients. But fingers crossed, before the end of the year, we will be in the market.
Full production.
And exciting news as well, talking about job creation in South Africa. We're currently in conversations to set up a manufacturing and production plant in South Africa directly.
Yes, that's what we want to hear.
Interesting fact, there is not a single textile recycling company in South Africa. We have spoke to Pepkor, we have spoke to TFG. There is not one handling the issue of textile waste, and that's where we want to be.
That's where you want to be, because that is basically your raw material. You need the textile waste to come through to you. Have you guys gone to Ghana and spoken to someone?
We haven't been to Ghana just yet. We're focusing on South Africa, Colombia, and then we'll pivotal in the United States as well as India. Yeah. But right now we're just exploring different options to see from a cost perspective what works best for us.
Yeah. The most
and
cost effective.
South Africa is looking very good for that right now, and can allow us to compete on another level while still bringing US-based funding into South Africa. Yeah. But yeah, it's very interesting. It's been an incredible time. And when you look at GAAF's vision, Naomi, right now we have one product from the textile waste, which is called Texterial, and they're the pellets. But what GAAF really aims to be is the #1 sustainable material provider in the world. So now we're tackling the issue of textile waste, but we'd like to produce lines that match different plastics, maybe by tackling the problem of batteries, old batteries, tires. What can we do with these?
All these recyclable
materials,
material that are not being recycled. Is there a way that you guys can convert that? Please don't blow up any houses.
No, we won't. What I'd want to do is, when they're protesting, I'd say, instead of burning the tires on the road, come burn them in our factory, and we can build playgrounds for people in the townships.
Right. And also, you can teach the youth on finding other solutions. You can take some of these manufacturing plants out to, I know some of our provinces do not necessarily have manufacturing anymore at a scale down. So how are we able to create more jobs, create a circular economy in our own country?
And that's aspects we need to tackle. Circularity is the future moving forward if we really want to aim towards the United Nations SDGs goals by 2030. And South Africa as a landscape, we have so many opportunities, but the government, if you're watching this in general, needs to focus on 2 main industries that can really help with the export market and place us on a different level. Whether that be manufacturing, agriculture, but it has to be labor intensive. So we're providing jobs while still exporting and getting foreign funding back into our country.
It's make the circle bigger.
Yeah, exactly. Make the circle bigger.
So, Cisco, what is next for you? Where is the future? What can we expect to see from all of these amazing programs and projects that you're working on? I know you're definitely someone to watch on the top billionaire in South Africa.
Fingers crossed. We'll be there together.
I'll be your friend.
We'll be there together, Naomi.
I will play this video to you and go like, we were friends, remember?
No, there's a lot of plans moving forward. We have our company GAAF set up in the United States. I also am part of a different commodities company that we're busy building in Stealth right now. But it's all to be with bringing traceability and sustainability into the artisanal minor industries within Africa. And then now that I'm back in South Africa, and from what I've seen overseas, there's a lot I want to implement locally within the entrepreneurship ecosystem, whether it's entrepreneurship clubs at universities, whether it's getting an impact investment fund set up. That's the direction and something that will consume a lot of my time now while I'm back here. Because it's been a while since I've given back to our local community. And that's something I want to definitely get up and running again, is community development projects.
But life's a balance. When are you having fun?
The thing is, Naomi, you'll see a lot of people talk about work-life balance. But to me, especially if you're discussing work-life balance, you're not doing what you love. I do what I love. I don't feel the need to find a balance because every single day I'm doing something I want to do.
You are enjoying it. It's feeding your soul.
I don't need an escape.
When you do what you love, you don't work a day in your life. Isn't that what the saying goes?
It is like that. And I remember when once I had to choose between two different positions, whether I was going to join as a regional manager for the Whole Prize Foundation or if I was going to go be a tax consultant. And my dad's advice that will stay with me for the rest of my life, he said, choose the one where you'll wake up every single morning wanting to go and do the job.
I had a chat with someone at my client's offices this week, and it was a Monday morning. And I was so happy, drinking my coffee, singing along, and everyone goes, but it's Monday, it's a blue Monday. And I'm like, if you reframe what the day is like, I will never forget that this was a pivotal moment for me when I was at HALT. We were so busy because you do an accelerated master's in 1 year. The time, plus you have projects that you're working on, you have assignments that you're working on, and you still have friends and networking that you needed to do. So there was no sleep. That's when I learned that we do not need 7 hours of sleep. But I never felt the days. A Sunday could be a Friday, or it could be a Wednesday, and a Monday. We were waking up, energized, loving what we do, and never thinking, oh my gosh, do I really have to get up? And I've taken that into what I'm doing right now and building my business. Sometimes the content of it is challenging. It is really hard. You have frustrating days. But if you are loving it, your Monday becomes a Friday.
Exactly. Every single day is the same. And I think people forget to look at it from that perspective. And I love your story too, personally. Like I know your story on a personal level and what you've done, even with the podcast today. I remember discussing it 2 years ago with you where you said you wanted to get this started and now it's finally happening.
Just do it.
That's literally.
Just go out and do it.
What's the worst that can happen?
Right?
I ask myself that question probably 100 times a day. They're like, you need to go have a meeting in Soweto. People are like, oh, it's not safe. You shouldn't go. I'm like, what's the worst that can happen?
Exactly.
And once you get that mentality where like what's meant to be will be, if something happens, it's going to happen. And if it's out of your control, just let it be. I feel you become a very powerful person where no extraterrestrial or no outside circumstances can influence you as a person, how you feel and how you react. Like it's control over your emotions to a completely new extent, a new level.
Absolutely. But we still need moments where we have our whiskey. And like, what's that? Was it one that you said again earlier that we get in the North End?
Little Italy? No, Espresso Martinis.
Espresso Martinis. Even if you work, I hope that you do make time to go and enjoy Espresso Martinis with your friends.
You said balance, right? Espresso Martinis while working. That's where the best ideas come from. Anyone watching this, cut that out. No, I'm joking. But
that is where the best ideas come from. After our very first podcast, we had a whiskey and we had the most amazing strategy meeting then. We're like, oh, we need to do this and that is how we're going to, and this is the direction of the podcast. And so, yes, it absolutely works. And Cisco's love life? You don't have to share that if you don't want to share that. So.
Cisco's love life right now is focusing on himself to get where he wants to be financially, but open to different options. The issue I face right now is I'm always traveling around the world and going to different places.
You'll find someone that loves traveling and that goes with you, right?
That's what I need, is someone who likes traveling. But I also, previously I was in a 7-year-long relationship, childhood sweetheart from the age of 16. But
that's adorable.
it was just one of those things where you outgrow each other and you're in different directions of your life. But I wouldn't change it for anything. It helped me realize what I want in a partner. So,
and also become a better version of ourselves,
exactly.
right?
Like when you're that young, you're bound to make mistakes, right? And as long as you learn from them and become a better human being throughout the process, that's the most important aspect to me personally. So yeah, if I need someone who's ambitious, has their own goals and values, is supportive of my decision making and accepts the lifestyle I have, and almost like your Bonnie and Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde is what I need.
Bonnie and Clyde exist, right?
Yeah.
What I also find that having spent time in an environment like HALT that is so diverse, and that also trains our mind to think differently. So we don't just have a growth mindset, but we also have an anything is possible mindset, and that the world is our playground.
100%.
We are not just made to work in South Africa. You need to find people that have got a similar mindset to be able to gel with them.
Yeah. And I always tell people, I'm like, you become the person you surround yourself with, or the people you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
So if you're in a group of 5 idiots, you'll be the 6th. If you're a group of 5 millionaires, you'll be the 6th. And as harsh
I need to
as
find
it
6
sounds,
millionaires.
Yeah, well, 5. You'll be the 6th.
I'll be the 7th. But yeah, I'll be the 6th millionaire.
But no, and it's possible. And if you find those people who align with your goals and your visions and actually contribute and push you to do better, keep them and cherish those people, because it is difficult to find. And it's the ones who are hard asses that tell you the truth up front, where you might not like it in the beginning, but they're being so straightforward because they care about you and want you to do better.
Yeah.
So any hard situation or arguments, always keep that in the back of your mind.
I love that. Cisco, before we close off and say goodbye to our audience, what is some of the most valuable lessons that you think you have learned in your young life? Because I know at 21 you said you were old, but you're the only old person.
I'm 24 now, Naomi. I definitely
Oh my gosh!
good.
Can we get you some? What's the word? A walker.
Yeah,
You are ancient
one of these
now.
days.
What are some of the greatest lessons that you have learned that you think you'd like to share with some of our audience?
The most important lesson I've learned throughout these past 4 years of my life is learn to say no. Like if you get backlogged with work and people are asking you to do something, we are all the same. We're all ambitious. We all have drive and we want to tackle everything in the world. But it's better to say no, you can't do something, than to say yes, you will do it and not deliver.
Yeah.
Because people respect a person of their word.
Yes.
And if you say you're going to do something, you need to get it done.
Yeah.
And if you can't, saying no, they will respect it more than giving them false expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. Being a person of your word, that I think is so crucial, right?
Yeah.
Because there's no use saying that I'm going to meet my deadline by Friday, 5 p.m., and then you don't have it.
Exactly. So being a person of your word is what I've come to realize, because before I thought I could do everything. But eventually as you grow, you realize you can't, and you need a team and you need a support system and a foundation. And that was extremely important for me, learning to say no.
It's hard to say no. How do you find the courage? And not the courage, how do you actually say no? Especially like if I think about myself, right? I am a fixer. I want to go out and I know I can do things. But then at times I find my plate so full that I struggle with the balance of really saying no when I know it's important and I know it's critical, but yet having to set those boundaries to manage myself and what it is that I can handle and not burn out on both ends.
I think a very critical point in this aspect is if you've ever had someone look at you eye to eye and say, I'm disappointed in you, or say, I expected
Oh,
more.
my mother said that to me before.
And that's exactly the reason you should learn to appreciate the word no, because that's something I never want to hear again in my life.
Yeah. Cisco, this was an absolutely amazing conversation. Thank you so much for making the time. I know you are an exceptionally busy entrepreneur. As it is, you are about to jump onto a plane to fly off and go and do your incredible work with our Health Prize students. But as a token of our appreciation from our incredible team at NJ, they would like to give you a small gift just to say thank you.
Thank you so much, Naomi. Shout out to NJ for this incredible gift. And yeah, I'd just like to leave by saying one last thing to the audience.
Absolutely.
Guys, if you are out there and you are young, I just want you to remember how grateful you should be in life. There's people out there who are dying each and every single day that don't get to breathe another breath, that are going through war and different experiences. There's tornadoes, there's floods. So if you wake up with the opportunity, you have a voice to speak and you have the ability to make a difference, just get started and really just try. There shouldn't be anything stopping you. If you have a phone, you can record a video, because there's people out there who have absolutely nothing. And just be grateful. Be grateful for where you are right now in your life and realize that you as an individual, you are powerful and you can make a difference. Even if it's a small difference, you can create a change. I promise you that. And I'd love for any of you seeking help or guidance to get started on your entrepreneurship journey. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn at Francisco Da Sila, or you can also find me on Instagram at FD_DA_Silva. And I'm happy to assist any way possible. And yeah, me and Naomi have some exciting things, and we'll be looking at setting up an impact investment fund potentially taking place in the future. I'm going to speak it into reality like you did early on.
Our impact fund is launching soon.
Yeah, it will come out, and we're going to make sure to bring opportunities back to the land of the opportunity and assist you all in any way possible. And I'm excited to get started. And thank you so much once again to the team that recorded and you, Naomi, for bringing me on the podcast today. And yeah, I look forward to sleeping on my flight to London. I will definitely be catching up.
That's where you catch up with your sleep, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Cisco, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Gratitude is what I'm taking away from this particular podcast, and how we should be grateful for everything that we have. I'm grateful for your time. I'm grateful for all our partners that support us. And please do subscribe and follow us for more incredible content. Thank you. And that is another episode of In Conversations with Naomi.